Hello, welcome to Veritas. I'm your host, Adam Colazetti, and I'm here to guide you on a meditative adventure like no other. Join me and lose yourself in your imagination as we travel the outer reaches of the cosmos, quest for powerful talismans, and explore the inner realm of your subconscious. What might you find along the way? But be warned, fair traveler, this path is not for the faint of heart. On this path, of one thing I am certain, dragons be here. Are you ready? So how we're going to begin is you're going to sit comfortably, however that means to you. Could be legs crossed, could be sitting in a chair, whatever it is, sit somewhere comfortably that you feel relaxed and comfortable. And you're going to close your eyes and you're going to take 3 deep breaths. Deep breath in, count to 4. Deep breath out, count to 4. And each time you exhale, you're going to try and relax your body a little bit further. So you're going to inhale, pause, exhale. Pause. So as you're doing this and you're relaxing, it's in those pauses between breaths where we're going to go. That is where your creativity meets your imagination, meets your subconscious. So let's see what awaits you in the spaces between breaths. Your eyes open, but this time not with the excitement and curiosity of truth-seeking or adventure. Instead, they are the heavy, dulled eyes of something dead. But you're not. You're alive. And yet you lay unmoving, letting your memories play through, overcoming fear, elation of reaching the summit, the intense stare of the eagle, the heat and death of the dragon. You fought so hard, and then the fall, cast down again. Eventually, curiosity wins out over lethargy and you roll over. This is the swamp again. In fact, it's the exact same spot you were before. Sure enough, the tracks of the crocodile lead to and from your spot. Thanks, you mutter with a nod to the swamp, but you were met with only silence. Up until now, you have avoided looking at your leg, but you have to stand up eventually. With a breath, you turn over and push up onto all fours. Sure enough, your leg screams in pain, but not the leg you were expecting. The other leg. This might normally be met with expletives and anger, but you have nothing. Inside, you find no rage, no frustration, no sadness. Just the empty silence of hopelessness. Instinctually, you know this is wrong, but you're also lost as to what to do about it. So you stand up. It hurts, but the pain is dulled. There has been some healing. The other leg, though, it is useless. With a grimace, you limp hop a few steps before falling, but still there is nothing. You can't even cry. Your soul wails and you want to scream and cry, but there is simply emptiness and silence. The universe does not care. At some point you fall asleep, although you're not even sure when, but when you awake, you don't feel rested. Exhaustion weighs on your body and you simply succumb. In between fits of wakefulness and sullen numbness, you sleep. How much time passes? It is hard to say. Days, nights. Even hunger is not enough to move you. Eventually it is simply boredom that motivates you to try again. This time, you're ready for what's coming. Your muscles are weakened, you need food. Robotically, you grab a branch that is about the right size and strip the smaller twigs from it. There, a walking stick. And so you swallow your pride and you lean on the walking stick. You never admit it, but it works really nicely. The way is familiar. After all, it was not long ago you walked it. Still, your soul feels numb. Where once there was fire and passion, now there is a void, like a tap has been turned off. On and on you walk, pausing to rest. One foot in front of the other is painstaking. You almost wish you could cry, but you can't really bring yourself to care. You are aware that something is wrong. It's like a vague itch in the back of your mind, but it's not loud enough to really draw your attention. And so you walk. At some point, thunder starts you out of your waking dreams. Looking up, you realize a storm has rolled in. Luckily, you are near the edge of the swamp and don't have to worry about flooding. Still, the sky grows dark and ominous. There's a static in the air. It's like the wick of a lighter that is struck again and again without lighting. Your senses are attuned to this, and suddenly you find yourself hyper-focused. This is why when the rain comes, it's a rush of sensation. It pours down on you, and as you stare up into the dark eye of the storm, there's a cleansing of sorts. Something stirs within you, perhaps not gone, just wounded. As if on cue, there is a flash and lightning strikes the dead tree directly in front of you. It is so sudden and violent that you stagger back. The light is so intense that once you uncover your eyes, you stand transfixed as the fire starts. The tree burns so hot that the rain steams when it hits it. It is a beautiful melody of water, fire, earth, and air. And there, with the eye of the storm raging overhead, and the fire blazing with hissing steam rolling off in waves, that you catch sight of your reflection in a puddle on the ground. Your reflection is colored red with the glow of the fire, but you see yourself. It is not the broken wretch that crawled out of the swamp, but the burning flame of the dragon that stares back at you. The fire has been lit. Like the tree, steam now rises from your body as the rain pours down. A warmth fills your senses and every hair on your arms and neck stands up. For the first time since the fall, you feel alive. You and the tree burn through the night as the storm slowly fades away. Perhaps the universe does care. In the morning, you awaken next to the smoldering ash of the tree. The ground is soaked so the fire did not spread. Today the colors seem brighter. Rather than rolling over and grimacing, you pull yourself up in one fluid motion. Movement will heal the body, and so you grab your stick and set on down the path. And so it was that you crossed the forest, climbed the cliff, and returned back to the giant rock mountain. What adventures you encountered along the way are perhaps a story for another day, but the wolf and eagle were nowhere to be found. Perhaps because you no longer need them. The physical struggle hardened your body and prepared your mind for the mental struggle over fear. This in turn gave you the will to face the darkest struggle of them all, the emotional devastation of hopelessness. Yet somehow you returned more powerful than anyone could have imagined. And so you find yourself within the cave, staring up the base of the steps where you traveled once before. The fear of uncertainty once again rears its head, but this is nothing compared to the fear of the cliff. You hesitate only a moment before ascending. There is pain, but it is nothing compared to the pain of hopelessness, and so your walking stick is more than adequate. At the top he sits, the man with the white eyes. He is sprawled on his throne like a lazy king. He says nothing, and so you stare at each other, unmoving, neither offering the other a hint or giving an inch of leeway. Finally he smiles, and after a moment you bow your head respectfully. And then he is in front of you, grasping your shoulders. His intensity rolls off him in waves. Is that a hint of excitement? Maybe even pride? You raise your eyes to meet his, and this time you truly see. The heat of pain and death fills your senses. The dragon rears in front of you, its eyes fixated on the faceless warrior. White-hot flame bursts from its mouth as the warrior hides behind their shield, one knee and one hand on the ground. But this time it's different. The heat and stench of the dragon roll off you, but you've felt pain before. This is nothing new. New details show themselves as your senses calm, the color of the rocks, the reflection of the pool. If you look closely, you see the eyes of the crocodile peering out. You are able to wrestle your fear aside and truly see. Once more you see through the eyes of the crocodile. You are behind and to the side of the dragon. The flames are still hot even from here, but now you see. The tracks of the dragon wind wide, far from the water, abnormally wide. In fact, the dragon has gone out of its way to avoid the water. And then you know, the dragon is afraid of the water. Then you are in the air, and you see from above. Once again, the ripples of heat distort the air, but this time you see the tracks. The dragon is not the all-terrible demon you thought. If it fears, it can be killed. And there, amidst the glistening black scales, there is a dull spot. Sure enough, a scale is missing. The dragon is vulnerable. And then back in your own eyes, you see the warrior behind the shield, and you accept the emotional cost of failure. Not despair, but hope. And then you know. Near the warrior's hand, there is the briefest of glimmers. They have a sword. The warrior is not being forced to the ground. The warrior is standing up. Now you see the eyes of the dragon are afraid. It is not the death of the warrior you are witnessing. It is the death of the dragon. That is the thing about hope. It is not a prayer or a wish. It is the certainty of victory despite all evidence to the contrary, and the realization that the struggle is part of becoming who you need to be in the end. With that realization, reality begins to crackle around you. Like puzzle pieces coming undone, cracks of white light appear throughout the vision. Soon this light washes away the darkness and the heat. You find yourself standing in a circle of giant stones. They reach for the heavens like pillars of creation. There are 13 pillars, each intricately engraved with various animals and runes, with grooves running to a center dais. Behold the sacred row, a voice whispers in your ear, as a small shape descends from the heavens. The man with the white eyes is gone. It is an eerie silence, and the glow of the cave shines eerily on the throne. There scrawled as if with a knife, Veritas vos liberabit. The truth shall set you free. You slowly hold up your hand. It is gripped in a tight fist around something, a box. It is intricately carved and made of some unknown metal. There are grooves etched in all 6 sides, but there does not seem to be any seam or clue to what lays inside. As you turn it over, you realize it is not quite a symmetrical cube. One side is longer than the other, making an angled top. As you hold it up to the light, the silhouette glowing eerily in the darkness, a wind suddenly blows within the darkness, and with it a whisper so soft you can't be sure you imagined it. Urus. Hello and welcome to Veritas. We are talking about the Chiron series, episode 4, and I'll be honest, it's my favorite one that I've written so far. If you haven't checked out the first 3 episodes, definitely check them out. It's a story told in 4 parts, and I think you'll get the most out of it if you listen to all 4 parts. But for today, we're talking about the finale, the big reveal, the truth shall set you free. I have Allison Langton with me. Welcome, Allison. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
We literally just finished listening to episode 4 like 2 seconds ago. So very first raw impressions, what'd you think?
I loved it. I think the words surrender and inspiration were 2 that came to mind.
Ooh,
so.
Good. I like that.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. And we always, of course, draw an animal card. Allison is the queen of animal imagery and interpretation. So let's see what we get. Extra one. Okay.
I think that means I wasn't ready for the call.
Maybe. Thought I took that out. Maybe not. No! Another dragon! Oh my god. No one ever draws the dragon. Like in 5 years of toying around with these things, I've drawn a dragon like 1 time.
It's the fire dragon.
It's the fire dragon this time, and you drew the air dragon last. Oh, okay. Mind blown. Fire dragon. Fire dragon. That is amazing. I am so excited about that. Vitality, enthusiasm, courage, and an increased ability to overcome obstacles and to find the energy to cope with life's problems. Very fitting.
Very fitting.
So a double dragon. Wow. That's awesome. So excited. Okay. So, yeah, of course, this episode, we of course had the dream about the cliff, and then the crocodile, and then dealt with physical pain in episode 2, and then fear in episode 3, and then of course the eagle 3 right back where you started. Mm-hmm. And you started off kind of waking up in the swamp, hopeless and kind of broken, mm-hmm. I think. How'd you feel about that?
Yeah, I had this sort of vision of staring up into the sky of kind of nothingness almost. Like, where do I go from here? I'm not really sure. And then as you started to describe it, I had a lot of clouds sort of trickling by, which when I was a kid, I used to lie on my trampoline and just love that. And I still love the sky because it's like this peacefulness. So it was this weird sense of kind of, nothingness from what's happened and all the pain and everything, but almost like this little spark of, oh, this is kind of nice.
Okay. So then, of course, you turn over and get to work, and now because of the fall and everything, now both legs are just kind of wrecked. Mm-hmm. Your world kind of sucks. But you find the walking stick, you go through anyways. And then, of course, finally the storm comes over and like the water rushes down and there's like this cleansing. What came up for you there? Yeah,
I think that's when the word surrender came, of just being through so much and accepting what's happened. And then the storm didn't feel scary. Like at first it felt like, oh, what's going to come of that? Because it was like, thunder and lightning. But yeah, it was that cleansing effect, I think, from the water. And even looking in the reflection at myself, if I wasn't that stinky hot mess
yeah.
anymore, right? There's been, something has let go. So.
Oh, okay. So it's like accepting or surrendering or letting go, and now you can move forward, of course, and then that stirring in your belly, you see yourself, but not as this kind of broken wretch, but as a kind of powerful, thing to be reckoned with, right? And I love the imagery of like rain and heat and like steam, I just think that's almost like energy coming off of you or something like that.
Yeah,
right?
I almost saw that as like a real photo in my mind. It was so real when you described that steam coming off. Because sometimes my third eye visions are a bit more cartoony. This was like, oh, I can actually see the steam.
Okay, good. Then I did a good job describing
you did.
it. So then, of course, you wake up and you're ready to rock, and you get up, and then we just kind of speed forward that you accomplished all the things, but I kind of hint that maybe there are some further adventures along the way. So I wonder if anything blipped into your head during that fast forward piece.
Yeah, not so much visuals. I would say just that there was a thought that it was kind of nice that the animals that were along the journey weren't really rescuing me or doing things for me. They were there as guides, but that they could support me, but it was really for me to take the next step. And I think that's ultimately all we can really do in human life. There's lots of people around us, but we're the ones who have to go through it and try. So. And
I think, the wolf and the crocodile almost have a conversation.
Yes,
right?
I love that.
Kind of mysterious. Like, what are they talking about? Right?
For sure.
But kind of an exchange of ancient wisdom, perhaps, or something. So then, of course, you make it back inside the mountain, go to the top. The man with the white eyes is there, just like he owns the place, right? But he shows you the vision, of course, and then you see the truth for what it is, and the different viewpoints. What'd you think of all that?
Yeah, it was really interesting because I think the first blush of that visual was that the man under the fire was sort of this victim or like stuck. When it all switched around, it was like, no, he's actually the one who's taking a step forward and sees this vulnerability in the dragon and is able to, kill or, be the conqueror of that. So it was really cool to see that. And I actually saw the man turned into this like loving light that just like totally encircled me, and so it was this just this supportive man, and maybe that's what I picked up on in episode 1 or 2.
Very cool.
Yeah,
I love the idea that if someone's kneeling like with one hand and one knee on the ground, you can't tell if they're standing up or laying down. And I thought that would be so interesting to switch that perspective and then throw in the different animals for that. So any observations or last thoughts about the crocodile, the eagle, and the dragon and the wolf, and all that kind of played together, and the characters?
Yeah, it seems like a really balanced support network, I guess, right? Like the eagle's perspective in the air and supportive from that way, and then the wolf who was, there as a guide off in the distance but close at hand, and then really the intense experience with the crocodile. So I don't know, the dragon was just seemed like all over our experience today,
right?
So.
Yeah. Well, and I mentioned last episode that I actually wrote this experience based on my experience because I had chronic hip pain for 10 years, and then in 2020 I finally put my name down on the list to have my hip replaced. And then, of course, the pandemic happened, and 5 days before the lockdown, I was at the gym and my right Achilles exploded. And that is a very, very grievous injury. So I spent 3 months in a cast, and of course the lockdown happened in the midst of it. Finally got out of the cast and was starting to walk again, and then the phone rings and they're like, hey, good news, we're gonna replace your hip next month. So in I go, and then I get my hip replaced, and then I'm back kind of on crutches and whatever. So now, a few months after that, I'm finally up and walking in, baby steps. At that point in the lockdown, all the gyms had been shut down and you couldn't go anywhere. So at home, I was doing physio and strength training like crazy. So for 5 or 6 months, got stronger, and then the gyms finally opened up and I went back to the gym, and I was so excited to kind of have all this back. And then my third day back, doing exactly the same thing, my left Achilles goes, and it explodes in exactly the same way, and down I go. And and reflecting back on that, because now it's back in a cast for another 3 months. I think the first 2, I was resilient enough that I kind of took it in stride, kind of dealt with it. But that third one, that sense of hopelessness, that like anger, that betrayal, that like, why didn't I listen, or what didn't, it's my fault, or whatever. There was a lot of that negative emotions, I think, right? I just like emotionally couldn't take it. So it took about a year, I think, to kind of snap out of that. And one day I just snapped out of it, and I was just like, what the hell am I doing? Like, I'm just going through the motions here. Like, what happened? But in reflection, I think it kind of had to happen in cascading waves like that for me to grow in the way that eventually ended up growing. So that's kind of the story of how that all came from my own experience. So, and in the midst of all that, I was experimenting with this. So really, all of this was kind of birthed out of that pain and that struggle and that journey, right? So
I love that. It's almost like going from this is happening to me to this is happening for me, and using it as a leverage for other things.
Yeah, exactly, right?
Yeah.
And like one day, it was so strange. It wasn't like a gradual get better. Like one day, I just like, like, whoa, what happened, right? I think everybody's struggle is theirs. There are a lot worse things that can happen to people than that happened to me, but it's your journey is your own, right? And it's all relative to your own experience. So that's kind of where all that came from. So any last thoughts or comments before we kind of close out and send it off to the world?
No, just thank you. I think it's really cool to see how far this has gone, and really grateful for today and all the wonderful visuals. So thanks.
All right. Thanks, Allison. Appreciate it. Thanks. Join me each week as a new chapter unfolds. What worlds will we explore next? What gods and monsters will we find? What part of yourself will awaken? Only one way to find out.